Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of TechGig, I'm Yojana Sharma, lead for marketing communications, welcoming all of you to today's virtual panel discussion. TechGig is celebrating Geek Goddess 2022 this entire week. You ask, what is Geek Goddess? It's a flagship event which is only for women engineers. It's hosting its 8th edition this year, and we'll be declaring finalists and winners among 69,000 women engineers on 23rd of November. When it was started, we had barely 15,000 participants, and from 15,000 participants to a journey of 69,000 participants. It's not just the journey of TechGig, rather the journey of Indian tech industry, how women have moved from inch to inch, from position to position, and today they command a seat at the table, a seat where everybody notices them. To celebrate the success of women, every year Geek Goddess is announced in the month of August, and we celebrate winners in November. This year, as a run-up to declare the winners, we are hosting a series of panel discussions, which we kick off today with a fantabulous panel of tech leaders. I have with me leaders from different organizations who are thought leaders in terms of diversity, inclusion, and most important, the golden word, which is equity. Today, as I welcome you here, I would like to welcome my panelists, Amit, Kirti, Deal Technology, Digital Strategy and Analytics Leader, EY GDS Strategy and Transactions, Sanghamitra, Pati, Consulting Leader, Deloitte, Annice, Diversity and Inclusion Leader, GDIO SAP. And while we wait for another thought leader to join us, Pratibha Ramesh, I would quickly like to take 2 minutes to talk about the premise of Geek Goddess and the focus of this discussion. Hello and welcome to TechGig virtual panel discussion on the rise of women in tech and revisiting this timeline. This discussion is a part of our flagship event, Geek Goddess, which is a women-only coding competition. This year, we're celebrating its 8th edition with 69,000 participants. 69, yes, that's the number we've clocked this year. This is a decade that has seen an unprecedented rise in women's participation in the IT industry. Women engineers comprise about 34% of the total workforce. Remember, people, this is only the 3rd highest among non-agricultural sectors that our country is known for. The other two being e-commerce and retail, which again have some tech interventions directly or indirectly. So as we talk about women, tech workforces, women engineers, their contribution, I have curated a fabulous panel here to talk about the progress in line, its timeline, and set the new records for ourselves. Today, we are here with a stellar panel of industry experts to talk about the rise of women in tech and the super emergence in the world of technology. As I introduce my speakers, I would quickly request them to wave at our audience here. Annice Joseph, Diversity and Inclusion Leader, GDIO SAP. Sanghamitra, Pati, Consulting Leader, Deloitte. Amit, Kirti, Deal Technology, Digital Strategy and Analytics Leader, EY GDS Strategy and Transactions. And meanwhile, one of our leaders is trying to join in, and we continue our discussion from here on. As I open the floor for discussion, may I have opening remarks from any of you here? Can I invite Annice to start with the opening remarks? Yes, please go ahead.
I was just saying that this is a great initiative, TechGig, Geek Goddess, and it really brings to light the 2 very important themes in the emerging world. One is technology, which is central to all conversations. Another is diversity, equity. So great effort.
Welcome. We're so glad to have you here with us, and we are all listening very keenly to what you have to share with us. I would like to have opening remarks from Annice, followed by Sanghamitra, and then probably some inputs from Amit as well.
Thank you so much for the invite, Sukriti. Having gone through what you all have achieved for the past years and the kind of reach that you have, I think it is wonderful to be here. Truly honored to be on your panel. I'm looking forward for very engaging discussion and looking forward to hear from my fellow panelists as well in terms of our own journeys in this world. And being based out of India, where we no longer, we don't have the kind of challenges that probably the Western world have. We have, in fact, a very good mix of technical, science-based women getting into the workforce. We have also seen a dramatic change over the past 2 decades in terms of not just representation, but the contribution that women bring to the table. So very excited to be here and eagerly waiting to listen to all of my panelists as well.
Sanghamitra, we would like to have your opening remarks.
It is great forum, and topics close to my heart, at least technology and also the rise of, women in general, the diversity and equity. So great topics and themes. But I will say this, that India is naturally inclusive because we are a diverse country which have diverse workforce, and right from our childhoods, we are trained and mentally conditioned to work with, to live with, different types of people. So how do we engage more and bring that to our strength, I think is something that I would be keen to explore in this panel discussion. And thank you very much for the invitation.
I think Amit would have a very interesting point of view. He's a person who's advocating the diversity and equity rights for women engineers at his workplace. Let's give it for Amit.
Thank you. I think firstly, thanks a lot for having me here. And I really feel privileged to be part of this panel, right? I think more from a purpose perspective that, while we all believe in this, and I fully agree with my co-panelists, Annice and Sanghamitra, I think today it's proven beyond facts, how diversity can help us become more innovative, become more productive. And, the cusp of technology and diversity, I think, is the most attractive cusp that we all need to look out for today, which is shaping the future. Diversity helps us bring multiple point of view to the table and create something new. And technology is, like I think Sanghamitra said, is you have all the growth pillars which are pivoting on the back of technology. So I think this cusp is really exciting, and I'm really fortunate to be here today. And it's a matter of honor that I consider for myself, because you guys have done a great job in last couple of years in pushing the agenda of diversity, especially the gender diversity. And I think today we are all looking forward to this discussion and learning mutually and sharing some of our perspectives. So thank you. And like I said, right, look forward to this space and would love to continue my contribution here, whatever little I can.
So I think I'll start with you, Amit. I'd like you to probably pick up the threads of the rise of women in technology, how steady it's been. Please do give us a perspective of your understanding from the global market, especially from the developing countries that we do align to.
Yeah, no, thank you. I think, like I said, right, and all of us have, this rise is very natural. And I think in India, we are fortunate that we have a very society which kind of encourages this kind of participation. When we look back at our history, we have heard the stories of Rani Lakshmibai, who fought the battle. So, it's technology is just one more facet to this leadership behavior, right, or attribute. And having said so, when we look around today, there is a lot that women have achieved in technology. For example, I've been fortunate to work in IBM, where at that point of time, our CEO used to be Ginny Rometty. And the way she drove the transformation of a 100-year-old organization, converting into, very subtly into a very aggressive market-oriented services organization from a product-led organization to and continue to kind of acquire new businesses and grow new businesses. So I think that innovation mindset, that multitasking, all of those attributes that women carry come very handy to the technology leadership role for women. Similarly, if you look at Dr. Lee, who's Dr. Fifi Lee, is a image scientist in Google today. And she's being the head of data research for Google Cloud, and she's built a database which is today all of the corporate world is using to actually understand how you can define images and use images, which has opened a new field in AI around image analytics, right? Similarly, you look at some of the business leaders like Indra Nooyi, who have been able to not only leverage technology but build the future of the businesses or the sector by leveraging some of the state-of-art technology, which is also contributing towards the health and environment parameters, right? So I think when we look at developing countries, I think the opportunity is immense, and the reason for that opportunity is also because in the developing countries, we have an opportunity to start afresh, right? Whereas in the Western countries where this journey has already been traveled, there are certain expectations. But I think in developing countries, like, for our digital payment or, online payments, we've taken the word. I think similarly, the opportunity exists for us, for our women leaders to be shaped up and to really create impact on the technology, because this sector in India is poised for very, very high growth, and therefore it'll open a lot of opportunities where people can contribute to this growth and shape up their own career journeys. And what better for this opportunity for women, right? I think they are shaping up their careers, and if they can come and join the sector growth, I think it's a win-win for all, the corporate sector, the country, and for the women. So let me take a pause here and give it back to you.
All right. So all I could hear in this conversation is some very impressive names, Indra Nooyi and Sheryl Sandberg and all of those, and something called as opportunity, and how India is probably right at the cusp of the transformation and hence a plethora of opportunities. I'd quickly move to Annice here and probably take a word from her. So how would, what is your take on this gradual transformation? And B, uh, what would be your words of advice to young women who are raring to go and make a mark in the industry today?
Sure, thank you. And thanks, Amit, for reminding us of all the wonderful achievements and of some of the great role models we already have in the industry. It got me thinking during my days at IBM as well, 20 years ago, what we were and what IBM is today, and how the whole tech industry have moved forward. Very often when we think about us as people, and here I'm shifting gears a little bit, Kirti, really focusing a little bit more on women rather than on technology. Because when we think about the opportunities of technology, Amit has already kind of set the tone and set the base that is a great place right now, right? We are raring to go ahead. We have a bright future ahead. So as women, what are some of the things that come to my mind, which could be a hindrance created by ourselves or it is something which exists in the society? And I was thinking that while I look at my own journey, that I have an experience of over 20 years, and I have worked in, the world's biggest computer company like IBM. I've been with Wipro. I've worked in, the world's most informative company like Reuters. I've today with SAP. So having this kind of an exposure, I feel sometimes as we think about our careers, there are a few things that we should keep in mind. And I'd probably like to touch upon three main points. Number one is to become aware of two things, which is something that we are very, very good at. That is being the superwoman syndrome, right? Amit rightly mentioned Indra Nooyi, and we know about her famous example that when she did become the CEO and she went home, her mother did ask her to go and get a packet of milk. And we try to do everything, right? We want to take care of our homes. We want to take care of our families. We want to take care of our work. We want to take care of our colleagues. We want to be the superwoman everywhere. Sometimes if we try to do everything at all times, this can actually deter us, because it's impossible for man or woman, for anyone to do everything, right? So be warned about the superwoman syndrome, which we all have, okay? And another thing which follows this is also the imposter syndrome, because in the effort to be superwoman, we live in a kind of a imposter syndrome. Every time there is a small lag, there is a small failure, there is a small barrier, there's a small deterrent, we take it up on ourselves and say, oh my God, am I worth it? I start self-doubting. So these are two things that I would like to warn all women and men who want to do everything all the time, right? So that is number one. Number two, I wanted to bring about, if you're really looking at how do you really get those opportunities that are out there, is to have a mindset of growth. What is a growth mindset? It is continuous learning. So ask for what you feel you don't know. Ask for what is available in the market. Ask about opportunities. Have the mindset to learn new things, to unlearn what you have already learned, to learn it and to relearn new things, right? So this is extremely important. And you can only get this by asking questions, not just to the outside world, but also to yourself. The third thing that I would urge everybody to do while they look at opportunities available is to invest in yourself. I am sure there are many mothers out here in our audience. I'm also a mother. We invest so much in our children. We invest so much in our families, with our parents-in-law, with our husbands. We invest so much in our teams. Women managers are known to invest a lot in their teams, help them to grow, etc. I would say pause and invest in yourself. Take care of your health, take care of your career, take care of yourself as a person. Spend time. Have you got that rest? Have you got that holiday? Have you set aside time for you to read and harvest knowledge? Right? I mean, I know I might be a bit older and talk still about reading, but today the world is full of opportunities to harvest knowledge, right? You have podcasts, you have YouTube, you have discussions like this, you have online courses. There are so many ways to keep yourself abreast. And when you invest in yourself, remember it means that you will also have to put the hard work, right? So
Right.
these are things that I thought I will share, and as we go along, probably go deeper. And this has worked really well for me. As I said, in my 20 years of career, I have been able to go through not only a very satisfying life in terms of taking care of my in-laws, taking care of my family, bringing up a daughter. I've gone through all that, but at the same time, I have also been able to learn and grow. Like today, you talk to me anything from a human resource perspective, from a people engagement perspective, I know there is some part of it I have done, right? And it is the curiosity and it is this urge to know more, the thirst for knowledge that has helped me move forward. And I am a big fan of outsourcing a lot of things. To break the superwoman syndrome, take outsource everything. You don't need to be the one to cook 100% of the time. Get your partner to cook with you, get your family to cook with you, whatever, right? You develop your community to take care of your kids. You develop your team to take care of things for you, right? So you don't have to do everything by yourself. So those were my initial few messages, Sukriti.
Annice, I think a lot of them were very pertinent, especially when they come down from a personal perspective, because we are able to connect to it. I would personally agree with the superwoman syndrome, probably, since our generation is growing up in a plethora of videos and inspirational stories. While they're all good to look at, emulating them cannot be a smooth walk for almost everyone. And while we are talking of a lot of things here which impact today's career, one word which is often said is called networking. I would probably move on to Sanghamitra and have her views on that. How pertinent is networking? How to effectively network? And is networking a real thing in terms of career growth, etc.? I mean, just let us know your views on that.
Oh, certainly. I think that is one of the words that we keep hearing about it because it is so pertinent and it is in the interconnected world that we live in today. I think networking is paramount. A lot of these was being harped upon even when Amit was talking about the diverse workforce, when Annice was talking about building an ecosystem around us. I think networking is the key. A few things that I would highlight when it comes to networking. One thing is that the approach to networking should be very conscious and authentic. Many a times, people mistake, a networking to be, something that is happening right now, very opportunistic, where someone has taken on a new role, or we weave our networking towards a particular event. But in my view, the minute we take a conscious and authentic perspective and a longer term perspective, the quality of our network is that much interesting and rewarding. And we need to nurture our network. It requires time, thought, and energies. Like all important things, it requires work. The second point about networking I would highlight is it should be multidimensional, because we thrive together as we scale, as we build, as we grow. So the networking should be, with leaders, with peers, and with teams. Once we have a well-rounded, multidimensional network, the success for ourselves, our firms, and our teams is that much higher. And finally, in keeping with the theme today, networking cannot be done in a very siloed manner. It needs to be diverse, because it's a fast changing world. It's a dynamic needs. We need multi-skilled and multicultural teams, and our network accordingly need to correspond with the kind of world we are living in, and needs to be diverse.
All right. I think those were pretty pertinent pointers, especially you talked about multi skills, etc. Because today is an age of being a specialist generalist. I think it's true for almost every domain, particularly technology, where newer things, newer skills, newer demands, newer clients, and everything has to be on the fly. I'll quickly route back to Amit. I have a very interesting observation here, and let me know on your take as a tech leader here. Every decade has a significant improvement in terms of there's one significant improvement that every decade brings along with itself. The earlier from 80s to 90s, we progressed in terms of tech innovations, and newer technology came into the floor, and suddenly we heard of internet, and we all of us had email IDs at least. The last decade has particularly been progress on multi fronts. And how do women engineers, young girls who are just stepping out, or who are just taking up STEM careers, how do they ensure they remain rooted to the innovations while still sticking on to the career path and not wavering away?
Yeah, great question, I think, firstly. And it's very pertinent, right, in today's world, because if I look at student or even young professional, it sometimes gets confusing, because, the ask and the spectrum of skills are so wide that, you tend to sometimes lose the track that, which is the best track, whether I'm on the right track or not, should I do something different, etc., etc. I think I'll go back to what my co-panelists have said earlier, right? I think the path is to keep learning. And I think, about the point that what's the best way to think about it, my sense is that, look, the world today and corporate world is not, in isolation of the globe, right? So the entire world, whether we look at it from countries' perspective, businesses or regulators, I think all of them have realized the power of technology, that technology is here to stay. I think long time back, this was a question, what can technology do? Computers were used more as a typewriter than printers. And then, the ERPs came in, and then it was thought that, it is an addition to the Excel that organization were maintaining. But today, I think it has been proven that systems can be intelligent, right? And they will continue to churn new models. They will continue to churn new algorithms and become kind of a self-learning loop. And therefore, whatever we as humans create today is at some point of time going to get consumed by these computer programs, and they will be able to produce that, right? And we need to therefore scale up and prepare ourselves to scale up newer heights. Now, how do we go about doing things? I think this time and the next 10 years or next decade that I see is we'll have to continuously scale up ourselves on the new skill set, on the new horizons, right? And what those horizons are today, maybe we can't even predict, to be truthful, that 10 years later, right? I mean, right now we are talking about AI, metaverse, web3 and all of those, but if somebody was to put hand on heart and say that after 10 years what would be that great topic, I think it will evolve, right? Nobody can with 100% confidence say. So what will matter for us, right? I think what will matter for us is the aptitude and attitude that we carry, right? Being open to learning, right? Being open to get challenged and being open to challenging the status quo. I think those are some of the very important facets that as young professionals we need to develop. And I think, the good part of these technologies is that it's not that you need to do 5 years of C++ and then only you can write an algorithm. I think these cloud-based, models or no code or low code kind of concepts are so easy, flexible, and agile that anyone can get on them very quickly and move to the next level. So I think all of those are enabling this kind of a thinking and approach that we all can take. My sense would be, for me, instead of giving an answer that should you be a data scientist or should you be a cloud expert, I would say, it'll depend upon your trajectory. But I think for me, the takeaway is that your attitude has to be at the right place. You should be open, you
Right.
should be learning, right? And you should be continuously evolving yourself. And the biggest thing, what is we focus a lot on IQ. I think the newer word where systems are going to generate a lot of memory, right? I mean, if you go back to our school time, we used to be judged on the mathematics tables, right? Which kid knows how much of tables and all of that. Now, think of it now with the on-the-go memory, perhaps these kind of memorizing stuff will get devalued at some point of time, right? Now, I think people who are smart, who can understand where the resources are lying and how to make best use of those resources, that intelligence would be more important than having that memory itself, right? And if that be so, then I think the attitude will matter more. So I would say just stay curious and keep asking questions, keep learning, and keep opening new paths. I think that's the way I see for myself, and that's how I would encourage all the young professionals to think about.
All right. I think a lot of sense for the young participants and young viewers here. I particularly wanted to speak on a very important segment, which is being in the leadership roles. Probably Annice and later Sanghamitra. I have one set of question here, which is, being in a leadership role requires you to be on your toes, mentally and physically present always, which of course we know is a difficult line to do. So women who are in the leadership roles or who aspire to take on the leadership roles pretty soon enough, what could be the best bet for them to be relevant and most impactful leaders in their own right?
Sanghamitra, do you want to speak?
Yeah, I can, and it is relevant. Absolutely great point, Samit. Really concur with all of them. I will pick from there. Whether you are in a leadership role or aspiring towards a leadership role, staying curious, staying relevant is very important, and which means constant upskilling. The one thing that I would say that as we get into leadership roles, there are two things we need to do very well and be very conscious about it. One is having our own core area of expertise. Many a times leadership is confused with, getting out of your domain, getting very broad, general, high level. These are words that I have heard, talked about. I personally feel that um, in the world that we are living in the thinking that is changing very differently, the world, the new opportunities that are coming up, it is very important that every leader has a core area of expertise. That helps us to stay grounded and to stay relevant. The second one is empowerment. We need to build great teams, and we need to empower them to take a lot of decisions which they are closest to. These are two things that I would say is very pertinent for leadership roles, women and men alike.
Thanks,
All
Sanghamitra.
right.
I mean, very, very tuned to what I was thinking as well, Sukriti. So if I can just, build on what Sanghamitra said. For me, when you talk about leadership, Sukriti, who is a leader? Like there was a time when Leader was, you would connect the title, that somebody is a certain position or at a certain level in the organization and so on. And it was a title given to you by the company or the organization or wherever you are, right? But today, in this generation, the leaders are people who other people call you as leaders. And therefore, what Sanghamitra said in terms of being an expert and being able to empower is so key, because other people around you, young and old, should be able to see you as that expert, as that caring person who is there for them, not because they don't know about it or they are far removed, but because they're ready to be close with you, work with you, and develop new things with you, right? So if you're thinking about leadership positions, and if you're thinking that you need to grow in your career to be a leader, I think it's very important to start probably with your own self-awareness. And why am I saying this? Because the intentionality goes a long way. How do you become an expert? How do you empower others? When you are so deep in your understanding of yourself, it is important that you are able to seamlessly, without effort, be here, be now. So we could be doing a panel discussion now. In 1 hour, we could be dousing a fire in the office. In the evening, we could be talking to the CEO of our company. In the night, we might be going out for a movie with our family. At every point, to be there and not be here and say, oh my God, what will happen in the evening? That is not. So to be leadership, to reach that leadership position, start to have that mindfulness here now, and the intentionality to be the leader, right? It's very good for you to have the aspiration and the ambition to grow in your career, but have that intentionality. What does it mean? It means that I will make priorities instead of having which happens to me quite often. Instead of having my weekend binge watching on Netflix, can I pick up something and learn something new today? Can I listen to a podcast? Can I read up a book? Can I go and talk to people? Right? And it comes back to what Sanghamitra said in terms of networking. How are
Networking.
you networking, right? To be a leader, it is important that people see you as a leader before you get that job or get that promotion or that position. But that networking is so key. So when you go for networking as well, in fact, I think there is some little bit of negativity associated with the word. We should think about it as building relationship. You know, when you're getting the opportunity, having 1 minute with the leader, what are you doing with the follow up after that? Are you sending him a thank you note? Are you beginning a conversation? Are you sharing your white paper or the project that you're working? So that is how you will build relationship. So people need to see you as a leader before you actually become that. And you need to believe that you're going to be a leader. So I would just like to add to what Sanghamitra said in terms of, I really liked her two E's, expertise and empowerment. Maybe I will add awareness, intentionality, and intentionality to it as well.
Very well added, Annice. And while I was absorbing all the pointers that you were mentioning, I had two things in mind. So being a leader, it's your responsibility to ensure that you create a smooth ground for the other women to rise. And secondly, being a leader, it's somehow your responsibility to probably, take care of the multi-generational gap, which is appearing in people as less as who are joining 5 years apart from you. So earlier, what was happening is that people who were decades apart had a certain change in their mindset, habits, or the way they perceive things. And this cultural gap has actually come into being in just 5 years, thanks to the internet exposure and all of that. And as the millennial women and the young Gen Z girls start joining the workforce, they have different aspirations from what they are being handed out to. And that may not actually be a situation of clash of crisis for the organization or the person concerned, but it will certainly have an implication on the talent pipeline of the organization in the longer run and the career of the person of the women engineers that who we are referring to. Since all three of you work in companies which have large office bases, not just in India, but in different countries as well, I would invite you to share your experiences in this regard. Both these aspects. First is building a ground for future leaders, and second is managing multi-generational workforce.
Maybe I can take a stab at it. It's been one of my favorite topics for the past 5 years.
Please, please.
So,
Go ahead.
So you're absolutely right, Sukriti. I'd like to set a little bit of a tone in terms of why talking about generations today in the world of technology is important. Because as you rightly said, we have the millennials coming. In fact, already we are seeing that millennials make up 50% or more of the workforce already. We have started to see Gen Z stepping in, because 18 to 23 are Gen Z, and with all the tumultuousness in economy and the fast pace of technological growth, we are reaching out to the next generation already, both as consumers and as innovators, right? So the change in how workplaces are perceived today is changing. Yeah, there was a time maybe 2 decades ago or 3 decades ago where you would go through a very linear cycle. The younger you are lower in the society in terms of stature and lower in the career as campus hires, apprentice, all of that, interns, and all of that. And as you grew older, you grew in experience and you reached a level of position in the society. And even if we think about our familial generation aspect, it does have the connotation that the younger people always are looking up to the older people and they know everything and you're taking advice. But today that is completely changed, right? Today we have 25-year-old millennials, we have 70-year-olds interns, and we don't know what is the role the next person is going to take, right? And this means that we must be able to accept and manage generational diversity, both from a manager and a leadership perspective and also from a colleague perspective, right? In the global economy, you might love coding, you might do it for 5 years and then say, I want to get into project management. Eventually, you have the mindset that coding is for younger people. And then you come across a colleague who has been in another part of the world, who has been coding for 25 years. So there is a possibility you have biases saying that, hey, why is this person doing coding for 25 years? But the fact is, in today's world, you can do coding all your life if you love it, right? So it's important that we learn to respect, we learn to be inclusive of people across different generations. And as the generations move forward, the awareness on human rights, the awareness on equality, the awareness of inclusion is all heightening. So you can no longer say that, oh, I am manager position, I am leader, I will command and control. That is gone. It goes back to what Sanghamitra said in terms of expertise and empowerment, which is now about, collaborating and coaching. So remember this, don't, while you're doing networking, don't stick with only people of your age group, or don't think that you can ask question only who is very elderly. You might learn from everyone, both younger people and older people, right? And all the people who are getting into the corporate world, who is having that campus to corporate transition, my request would be to be aware of it. And the best way to manage cross generations is, at the end of the day, we are all human beings. So don't assume anything, ask. If your manager says, hey, I want to check on your work every second day, don't assume that he is controlling or he wants to micromanage. Why don't you just turn around and ask why? And then you will have something to learn. So this would be my perspective on how we can manage the different generations in today's tech world, I mean, across the globe.
I would like to have Amit's probably perspective here, because he's been leading a team that's all about equity, diversity, inclusion, etc. But what we're discussing here probably talks about a workplace cultural plus emotional equity perspective.
Sorry, I quite agree with what Annice said. I think it's about having the freedom, independence, but yet connections, right, which are allowing you to exceed or excel in your expectation, but at the same time keep learning from each other and keep accommodating each other. I think the way the organizations are made or the way the cultures are made today in a large organization is where you are able to provide the flexibility, you are able to be accommodative to people. And I think for diversity encouragement also, this is a must, because eventually all of us carry as humans only one differentiator, which is our perspectives, right? I think, and where does that perspectives originate from? It originates from our experiences, it originates from our education, it originates from our value system, it originates. And for all of this to strengthen, what's the best source? The best source is to interact with a lot of different type of people, because that is where you get exposed to different, right? And I think this has been learned much earlier, wherein people were encouraged to travel to other cultures so that you go and see the same things can be done in different ways, right? And it is just about hearing, observing, learning those perspectives. It is not about enforcing one over the other or saying what is good or what is better. So I think when I think of it, from an organization perspective, I think it's very important, or it is utmost important, that we as a culture should be very accommodative. There will be people who will bring different perspective. Like Annice rightly said, that there may be a coder who's been doing 25 years of coding, and he may be working with a manager with 10 years of experience, but their roles are different, the expectations are different, and the kind of value perhaps that experienced person can get onto the deeper side of the code could be very different from what others in the team could get in. So I think we just need to understand the power of this difference, right, that, or this diversity which it can create. And I think large organizations, large business schools, or any academia, right, all of them have started to understand this and started to encourage this, because I think it is largely now understood by the both the leadership and the corporate world, that the more diversity you can encourage in the team, the more flexibility you can encourage in the team, the better people will be inspired to deliver, right? And that inspiration on delivery will lead to better productive result, may it be operation, sales, leading to eventually the shareholder value. So I think to me it looks like this is something winning formula for everyone. And I think COVID-22 has just kind of stamped that once again, right? You saw that whether it was a lot of services sectors which was delivered out of India, it was a big question that how will we do it? We are not meeting the client. Can the offshore onshore combination happen? Can without meeting a client consulting services be delivered, etc., etc.? All of that happened, right? Which has not happened in the past. There were product development, there were things which were kind of considered out of bound for somebody to do remotely. But irrespective, right, when same city, people living in the same city could not meet each other, people yet delivered on this. So I think the power of humanity is to learn, right? And I think we learned a new dimension that all this is still possible, right? And therefore it goes back to your previous question of leadership and what my co-panelists talked about, enablement, allowing people to discover themselves, allowing people to get mentored, allowing people to try out new things. All of this is are the kind of important facets of that culture that you want to create in organization, which is very accommodative, empathetic towards individual, and let individuals perform. It's not that it is one at the cost of another. I think we all have learned that, right? Like I said about COVID, right? We all have seen that journey, that all of that can happen without jeopardizing any of the organizational objectives. And I think that's the new word, or that's the future of working, wherein we will have hybrid working, we will have people in the same place, we will have people virtually joining, we will have people collaborating on products, on algorithms, on meetings, despite irrespective of their gender, irrespective of their locations, irrespective of their caste, creed, and all of that, right? So I think that's the beauty of this. And I think as humanity, we just need to kind of embrace that challenge and encourage that challenge, because that has proven umpteen number of times, and it's no more a rocket science, right? It's here and now, and I think we all need to just kind of embrace it as much as we can.
I think the key takeaway would be, learn on the go. That's as pertinent for the younger folks as it is for the leaders. I'm keenly awaiting to hear thoughts from Sanghamitra, Pati.
Yeah, no, thank you. This is a great discussion, and this is a reality of the world. Like Annice said, 50% of our workforce, and increasingly so, will be for the newer generations. And then there are, we are right now being very inclusive and getting returning mothers back. We have programs to have returning mothers back in the workforce, veterans in the US, and we are a largely global workforce, the companies like ourselves, where, to your point, Sukriti, how do we manage these diverse, multi-location, multicultural teams, who are working across time zones? We have people in the West Coast, in Japan, and we interact with all of them, and then we have our own teams here. So couple of things I would say. One is there's a lot to learn from the current generation as well, because every time we go to campus, a lot of questions are around purpose. A lot of questions are around environmental, social, and governance, right? Which is a remarkably positive change. I feel that we are ourselves and our world has a much better chance, at the future, at this mindset. And we really, in Deloitte, what we do is very consciously foster those ideas into some of our new areas that we are of focus, like ESG, that we are focusing on environmental, social, and governance. The other thing that we do is that as we try to make the campus to corporate transition easier, so particularly at the scale that we are hiring, at the scale that we are growing the workforce, and a lot of them are newer, of younger generations. So we have what is called, say, Deloitte AI Institute, the Deloitte AI Academy, Deloitte Cloud Institute, Deloitte Technology Academy. All of these academies create a forum wherein it makes it easier from campus to corporate transition, with a variety of learnings, as well as variety of interactions and networking opportunity with leaders. So that's one thing that we do. The other thing that can never go away, and which we need to foster and we continue to do so, is empathy. Whether we are looking at generational diversity or cultural diversity, it is important to understand, the other person's perspective. And, there are a lot of these conscious, uh, uh, what would I say, forums, sensitization workshops that we keep doing so that it is relevant and it is our top of mind.
Thank you so much. I think some of those pointers were pretty relevant, because I've heard a lot of young folks talk about, how's my organization making an impact on probably environment or sustainability, or, building the next gen skill for the underprivileged kids. We've seen a lot of those things happening at our forefront as well. As TechGig, we have 4.3 million technologists, most of them pretty young, pretty raring to go. They keep taking those challenges and all, and most of them actually take on the newer programming languages that probably some of us must not have heard, or probably think that why learn this and not learn the typical Python, C++, which gives us better chances to jobs and careers. Quickly riveting back this discussion to careers for young women engineers. Quickly, I would like 3 takes from all of you as part of the parting note. Quick 3 skills that every woman engineer must polish to rise in her career. What would those 3 skills that advice be from you? Anybody could begin, probably Amit or Annice, since Sanghamitra has just closed her remark.
Sure. I can go ahead. I've been on the other side of the table, so I've been always the beneficiary of the diversity, because I've seen women have delivered, be it my colleagues or above management above me, or even the team members, right? So I think I've been super impressed with them, and therefore when I think about this, what could be some of the important parameters to consider? I think one thing that I genuinely think is women need to ask for their participation. I think sometimes I've seen they wait too long to get their kind of role or growth or whatever. I think they contribute equally, or rather largely. They have huge multitasking abilities, right, which comes to rescue every time for the organization. Sorry. I think they need to ask for the right question and ask for their growth and be confident about it. I think that's number one. Sorry. Second, I would say is we discussed that enough, is most important parameters is keep learning. I think just in order to ensure that they are not missing on the growth story of the sector or of the industry, I think it's important to keep evolving their own skills. And third, I think we covered earlier, is about having the right network to reach out to, and building relationships which are something that are mutually rewarding for each other in different phases of life, right? I think these are the three things that I would say.
Thank you so much. I think the last pointer is very pertinent. I would take a personal note of that. Thank you. Annice?
All of them, Amit, I completely agree with Amit in terms of the recommendations. Maybe what I could add, it's not really very different, but probably something to add to what Amit said is when it comes to ourselves, as we are and doing the campus to corporate transition, be as authentic to yourself and to others as possible. And the reason why I'm saying this is that we can be influenced by our belief systems, by our society, the way we want to. And sometimes we think career as a pathway to something else. Once you get a job, then you're more suitable or more, you meet the requirements of getting a marriage proposal, you get meeting the requirements of getting into a better family and so on. So, which is not bad at all, which is a good thing. This is how families and cultures grow. But at the same time, when you move from campus to corporate, remember that at the corporate level, there is work to be done. There is intentionality. There is a career for you waiting, and it is completely yours. You can own it and you can drive it, right? So be authentic about that. The second thing is about intentionality. Be intentional in terms of why you're getting that job, how you want to grow into that job, and make a career out of it. This I can share from personal experience. When I first initially got my job, I still remember the days. My mother-in-law said, like, I was married, I had a child. My mother-in-law said, oh, in our families, never happens. Like the maximum job that we have done is we are teachers, or the women in our house are teachers, or they are in banks. So why are you going to work in an IT industry, right? And for me, it was a great opportunity. I was very impressed with the people I met, and I really wanted to do it. And it was very close to my house. So as a young mother, I thought this was really good because I wanted to be the best of myself for my child. So that was my intention of getting into career, right? I was not some very ambitious person. So when I thought about it, I still remember coming back and showing to my mother-in-law how good my company is and how it gives me the environment of a bank because it was IT, and how good it was because I was going to be in HR and how it is a teaching profession, right? So I had to convince her that and be intentional about it. It has brought me a long way. At every point of my career, that has been very helpful, right? That is the intentionality. And the third thing is, again, reiterating what Amit said in terms of being open to learning. And for that, you need to have a curious mindset. And how do you have a curious mindset? Don't jump into conclusions the minute you meet something, you hear something. Don't be judgmental, right? If there is talent on cybersecurity, don't think, oh, that's cybersecurity, not coding. Remember that the way cybersecurity works actually takes inspirations from women, right? We are the ones who are ready to peep into the next neighbor's house and see if there is a stranger, right? We are the ones who knows when the vegetable vendor changes. We are the ones who knows that if the regular postman or the regular courier guy is changing. We have it in us. It is great, right? That we are alert. Today, artificial intelligence and webcams and machine learning is learning from us. So be open to it. Do not close anything and say that, oh, I learned this in college, I will only go this far. You are a wonderful human being with many opportunities. So have that curiosity mindset. What can I learn from it? right? So these are the three things that I will share, Sukriti.
I think what you said about, own your own career. So that's as pertinent for women as it is for men, and that's the only thing. Whether you are a new joinee or whether you are a mid-level manager or leading a team of 150 plus people, that's the only thing that will keep you going. Quickly, we are awaiting remarks from Sanghamitra now.
Yeah, I think a lot has been said, all of them extremely important. Really quickly to summarize, what are the three skills I would recommend every woman engineer to have? One is core technical skills, whatever that evolves, whatever that gets to, please do not let go of yourself, your core technical self. The second one would be connecting the dots. Always connect dots between people, connect dots between technologies, connect dots between business and technology, and so on and so forth. That I think is the basis for a very strong networking. In your own life. And the third thing I would say is the skill to be able to, not a skill to be able to, but upskill. So the third thing would be upskilling constantly, being on the lookout for what is next that you can learn. Those three things.
All right, Sanghamitra. I think I would like to pick on the last pointer that you made. Any particular technologies that any of you would like to harp upon, technologies that you feel are relevant for the coming years, and hence women engineers need to look out for those and probably upskill in those?
So I would say one thing, that there is not a particular tool or a particular technology or a particular skill that you need to focus on. But the one trend that is very clear out here, out there, and from my experience where I'm sitting, is AI, data, and cloud digital skills. I think that is central to most conversations that we have with businesses. So and there are multiple skills within them that one can embed into ourselves, lends themselves to women engineers, that the people that we are talking to today in TechGig. So you are in the right space. Just pick a couple to start with, and then proliferate from there.
All right. Any pointers from Janice and Amit?
I would just agree with Sanghamitra. I'm not a core technical person, so I'm going to refrain from mentioning any of the technology names. But for me, I would say that it's important for you to keep your mind open. And that would be key, right? In terms of what is the need of the hour. I really like the aspect of what Sanghamitra said in terms of connecting the dots, because today, as you look for what technologies to learn, look at what has been the implication of it. Like, how is it impacting our society? How is it impacting the businesses? How is it impacting the world? And then go after it. So that would be my advice.
I think I quite agree with Sanghamitra on the skill side of it. I think Annice has rightly summarized the attitude side of it. I would say Sanghamitra is right. I think the skills or the areas that are growing are these, but within these, there are a spectrum of skills, right? So it's not, while it is just 3-4 words about cloud, AI, data, digital, but there is a spectrum of skills that you can learn within that. You right from as good as an intuitive designer, if you are good in creative skills, to really statistics backed data science, or to a little bit more complex on the data engineering side. So there are multiple areas to get inside them, and each one of them is having a bright future. It's not that one of them is not growing versus one of them is growing. I think the opportunity is enormous. I think you need to think about your own trajectory, your own strength, your own interest, because one very important part is, if we do what we like as work, right, which means if we follow our passion, we never get tired. But if I am forced to today become an artist, I think perhaps doing one painting will make me tired, right? And vice versa for somebody else. So I think it's just that follow your passion. These are the areas, broad areas that we can talk about, but within them you have a number of skills that you can go after. And I think what we need to follow is the approach that Annice said, that we need to be curious, we need to be open-minded, and just keep on learning and experimenting, right? I think there is a lot of time in front of all the youngsters or young professionals, that they can try, they can experiment, and it's okay to fail a little bit and learn from it and move on. I think that's the opportunity they carry. So yeah, I think I tend to agree with what has been said.
Thank you so much for those closing remarks, Amit. I think we've had a fantastic discussion. We spoke a whole length about inspirational women, women engineers, their rise, and of course, there's a lot to look forward to. So many opportunities on board, especially that India is poised to step into its decade per se. A lot to look forward to, and probably whenever we meet next and we talk about the same topic, I think we have many relevant examples and many relevant things to talk back and take this string back on this conversation here. Thank you so much, Amit, Kirti, Annice, Joseph, Sanghamitra, Pati, for your valuable time. Thank you so much, our dear viewers and our users. So delighted to host this kind of a conversation for you and bring so many perspectives for careers for women engineers. With this, I'd like to close the discussion. I hope each one of you carry some, nuggets of information and some insightful pointers back with you as we wrap up this discussion. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity, and thanks to all the audience for giving us this time as well. Thank you to my co-panelists as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.